Hello and welcome back. I'm RJ Kerr, and this is Let's Write an Adventure, our ongoing live stream where we are working on an adventure in real time, building it from scratch, building out all the bells and whistles and going down all the little creative alleys that we can, so that you can see the full process, or at least the full process that I use to write fully fledged adventures. So, if you're joining us for the very first time, we are working on an adventure we started um, many weeks ago at this point, where the characters are hired by a community leader from the town of Skysong Gulch to recover the only known deposit of our MacGuffin, an item called cold iron, which is a powerful anti-fey material once mined in a glacial fortress that has now been abandoned because it was ravaged by disease centuries ago. The community, Skysong Gulch, needs it to save themselves from the foretold coming of the Bloodgood Sisters Coven of Hags. And the characters will have been led to believe that the village plans to use the cold iron to fight the hags. However, once they return with it, they discover that the village plans to use it to appease the hags by gifting it to them. The party must then decide whether or not they're going to wash their hands of the whole situation or whether they are going to try to rouse the town to oppose the Bloodgood Sisters and hopefully defeat them. So we have so far done almost the whole darn thing. We've covered our journey to the Berg. We've talked about the Berg. This is our glacial fortress and mine where the cold iron is. We've outlined our final encounter and the steps that lead up to that. And so right now we're working on the entry. As I mentioned in a previous week, I really like to start. I like to start in the middle most of the times. Um, I'll do the beginning as one of the last things that I actually write in an adventure, just because, well, it's easier that way. You know where you're headed if you've already have something to move towards. Now, every creative process is different, and if for you, if it makes sense to start at the beginning and work your way forward, awesome, do that. But a lot of the times when it comes to adventure writing, I start in the middle. So we were building out parts of Sky Song Gulch, and I will again mention that there is way more detail in this town than we're likely would need at an adventure this level, especially if the characters are not going to come back to it very often. And let me go ahead and swap to my screen share so you can actually see what I'm doing. Um, but since we kind of have an unlimited amount of time and we've been prompted with, as we kind of explore this, we run into, prompts of various points of interest that you might want to build out in your campaigns for whatever reason. Uh, we can, sort of run down these little avenues. So we've put a fair amount of detail into Sky Song Gulch at this point, and so we're just wrapping it up by listing out some of the key locations. And we have two of them left. We have our general store and we have our town hall, having filled in just about everything else. Now, uh, we know that we've got some NPCs for our general store and our town hall. We've got, I believe, Elria Shadowforge, I think, is the general store owner. Let's get back to our final encounter to double check that. Um, Yes. And then Nisa's Stonehearth is our mayor, so our NPC for the town hall location. So let's go ahead and start building out the general store. So I have a note here about wind chimes outside. I like that. I imagine Sky Sun Gulch is a fairly windy place, and so maybe that is our distinct feature for the general store is the number of wind chimes that are outside of it, or maybe hang within it, or maybe it is a particularly windy inside as well, maybe based on where it sort of sits uh, uh, in the overall structure of Sky Song Gulch. So let's start working with that. We don't have much on the first level, so let's put it there. So let's say, um, do we have a name for it? Let's see here. Let's see here. let's call it Shadowforge Coster. So, you know what? Let's check out our trusty thesaurus. Because, I don't know, sometimes just calling things a general store is boring to me, and I will default to things like Emporium or Coster, but I use those a lot. So let's see if we can find something else that just kind of feels good about this. So let's see if we have anything under this particular one. Sometimes has combinations. We might have something under like general store. It doesn't. So let's just try store. And again, you don't necessarily have to dig too deep in your vocabulary if you really don't want to. I just get tired of using the same verbiage over and over and over again. And yes, there are online thesauruses, and yes, we could search, but this one just seems to turn out better results for me. I think it's the layout. And this is the Oxford American Writers Thesaurus, if you're interested in such things. It just seems to kind of align with the way that my brain works. Haven't helped them. All right, so shop or store. Let's see. Shamefaced, sharp. Shop. All right. Store, outlet, boutique, emporium, department store, big box store, supermarket, superstore, chain store, market, mart, mini mart, convenience store, trading, post. I don't like any of those. Let's see if they have anything else for store. I just use Emporium way too often. We may end up sticking with Coster, but it would be fun to have something that's just a little bit different. I feel like Ms. Shadowforge has a bit of a personality, so I feel like her store should reflect that. Okay. Shop, outlet, boutique, department store, general store, chain store, emporium, market, supermarket, grocery store, mega store, groceteria. Okay. I guess we're gonna have to stick with Coster. I just don't like any of these other recommendations. I guess we could check Coster here real quick. Just kind of see if there's anything in that. We're probably spending too much time on this, but you know what? Sometimes I just can't get out of my own way. Let's see here. They don't even have Coster in here. Let's make sure I'm spelling. Yeah, no, okay. Well, it is archaic. All right, well, I guess we're sticking with Coster then. Well, that was a long journey for the same result. Sorry about that. Anyway, so we're gonna stick with the Shadowforge Coster then. So we'll say Shadowforge Coster. Let's see. Let's make it's in my mind. I almost think of I almost think of this place as kind of a microcosm of Sky Sun Gulch itself. So I think it needs to be a multi-story. It's probably 2 stories. It is a we'll say 2-story general store with an entrance. We could even say with entrances on it, with entrances on the first and second level of Sky Song Gulch. think it makes sense for there to be an entrance in the first level because I imagine a lot of the goods that come in would come in by river. It's just an easier way to transport stuff. Um, so yeah, the first and second levels of Sky Sun Gulch. Cool. Um, the interior is a large open space um, with your stone shelves carved into the walls from floor to ceiling. And I imagine like I'm almost picturing like like a two-story library kind of deal, right? Where you've got one layer of shelves, one level of shelves, and then you have like a balcony around another level. And I could almost see there even being you know, the kind of rolling ladders mounted onto the walls on each level, so that you can get up to the various goods and items that are there. And I even kind of imagine just like a rope bridge that spans the middle of the second level, so it kind of goes from one side of the balcony to the other, even though the balcony will do the full kind of loop. It just gives you a place to kind of cross in the middle. But it's the rope bridge, just like there are outside, just like there are spanning the gulch of Sky Song Gulch. Um, so the interior is a large open space with stone shelves carved on the walls from floor to ceiling, um, with rolling ladders mounted on each wall. The upper level is a balcony. Why can't, there we go. Is a balcony ringing the overstocked shelves with a swaying rope bridge that cuts across the gap. A profusion of wind chimes are mounted, I should say, are hung from the porch entrances on both levels, as well as from the bottom of the rope bridge. So I, thinking about the wind chimes from on the outside, sort of picking up the wind and that kind of thing, and making it uh, you know kind of clank and tingle and and chime, if you will, from the winds that kind of rip through Sky Song Gulch, making it a kind of very musical place. But also, I could see wind chimes being hung from underneath the rope bridge. So every time you cross it, they kind of clang and make the same kind of noise. And so I could see this being a very loud, very cavernous, noisy kind of place, with just a little bit of echo from all of that, which I think is a cool little feature. We've done a lot of physical features in the town, in our various shops here. But the cool feature for this, the unique thing, could be just how noisy it is in here from all of the various chimes. And maybe it's a musical kind of noise. Maybe they are sort of, you do get sort of this unstructured melody as people move about and the wind blows through. And, paired with that, just a little bit of echo from just how large this space is. Its point is, unique features lean on sensory details just like everything else, right? So when you're doing these things, when you're creating them, a lot of the time you'll focus on sight and the things that the characters see, but there's nothing wrong with picking other senses to make a room feel unique. Okay, so let's let's do that. So let's start by talking about Illyra. Let's see here, Shadow Forge, and what do we know about Miss Shadowforge? Let's see here. Always smiling, even when angry. And she has a secret. She doesn't want anyone to know she's been dealing illicit goods on the black market. Oh, yes, that's right. She is a potential black market contact. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Sorry, I just had visions of her as Alistair from Has Been Hotel in my head. Um, when eventually I run this, I may play her that way. We'll see. Okay. Is a tall, thin, tall, thin woman with a perpetual grin stretched across her face. No, I won't say stretched across her face because that's going to make it look like it's forced. And I think I want her to be a little easier than that. It's not. A smile isn't something that she makes herself wear. It's a mask that she chooses to wear. The perpetual grin. Um, let's see. Here's a tall, evil woman. Is a tall, thin woman with a perpetual grin, eased, uh, eased across her features. I don't know that I like the wording on that, but we'll start with it. It's fine. Tall, thin woman with a professional grin eased across her features. She's, let's say, a wheeler and a dealer. Willing to make deals with just about anyone for the right return on investment. Come on. There we go. The right return on investment. A character trait that has led her into some nefarious waters in the past. Great. So, a little note of detail on there gives us a little bit of vibe on how to play her. All we're gonna need to start with here. So, let's see here. The coster sells all adventuring goods found in the let's say in the PHB, in the player's handbook, with the exception of weapons and armor. Let's say magic items cannot normally be purchased here. However, let's see. However, Elria might be able to acquire certain items by request through back channels. I don't know if we'll use that, but sometimes, you may have experienced this. I frequently get players that want to buy magic items, and I go back and forth about whether or not to allow that. I think it really depends on the game and how prevalent magic is in the world that you're playing in. High magic settings, yeah, there's nothing wrong with buying and selling magic items. Low magic settings, it doesn't make a lot of sense. The trouble comes when you kind of come to medium magic settings. Things like the Forgotten Realms tends to be kind of a medium magic setting in my mind, um, whereas Eberron would be a high magic setting. Um, you know, I go back and forth on that. I don't know that there's a right answer when it comes to medium, sort of these medium magic settings, but I like to give myself the option just in case I decide that I'm feeling super generous. All right. All right. So here's our unique feature. Due to all the wind chimes um, and the cavernous size, I should say, and its cavernous size, the coster is a loud place full of melodious chiming and the tinkling tinkling. There we go. No? Yeah, okay. And the tinkling of bells. This masks most conversations, allowing patrons to speak in private, even when the shop is crowded. Cool. And with that, we have, in one fell swoop, explained our unique feature and made it part of, sort of the atmosphere of Shadowforge Coster. It's not just a decorative thing. It's not just that she likes the sound and the noise. It's that it masks a conversation, allowing her to have sort of these private dealings, no matter what's going on. All right. So I think that's enough for the Coster. Now we can go to Town Hall. Town Hall, thankfully, does not need a name. So let's say, what do we want to say about Town Hall? Um, so government buildings are going to speak to the overall sort of rule of law and order in your towns, right? They're symbols, and therefore they're storytelling elements for your players, right? So if you have big sprawling magistrate buildings, that represents a certain amount of projected power. Um, Now you can modify that by having an enormous you know presidential palace, as it were, that's falling down into disrepair and showing, and that suggests things like, oh, this was once great empire, and now it's kind of falling into ruin and it's decaying, even if it's pretending to continue on. Um, but by the same token, small offices suggest that the rule of law is not as well formed, that there is not as much, even if there's you know, even if there's a claim of being governed by, part of another country or a nation or part of a kingdom or what have you, um, having a small town hall, having a small governmental office suggests that that reach doesn't quite extend this far, or at least not as powerfully as one might hope. And that doesn't have to be the case. Again, we can sort of modify that by the accoutrement that we put into the town hall. But I like the idea of a small town hall for this. You know, I'm thinking, I'm always thinking like the sheriff, like the marshal's office, the sheriff or the sheriff's office in an old like spaghetti western, where it's like a room with a couple cells attached to it, and or maybe two rooms, like one room for the sheriff to live in, And it's, not that Nisa is the sheriff, although I think we've picked a sheriff, haven't we? We did come up with that, didn't we? Town healer, yeah, town. Okay, yeah. So she wouldn't live there, but he would. But she could work. But she would work there. So maybe that's kind of it. Maybe it is, you know, one large room. It's got one side room where the sheriff lives, and then there's like some jail cells in the back, and then it's just a set of desks that kind of face each other, where you have, the mayor and the the mayor and the sheriff, or maybe there's a side office for the mayor. Yeah, that seems a little. Yeah, it seems a little better. I like that a little bit better. There's nothing wrong with. I don't think anything wrong with the first idea there, but since she's our quest giver, since Ms. Nisa Stonehearth is our quest giver, I think she probably needs her own private place to talk. But yeah, yeah. But I like keeping this small. It also kind of explains why, they're going to hire adventurers to do stuff. And especially with other jobs, if we're going to do other jobs and that kind of deal, they just don't have the manpower for that kind of thing. Small communities and what have you. So, yeah, okay. So, town hall rests on the, let's see, on the second level of Sky Song Gulch. And it is a let's see here. It's a small set of offices. It's not even really a set of offices. It's a small structure comprised of one main room. Serves as the sheriff's office. Two iron barred jail cells stand at the back, and two other rooms branch off from the main. One is the sheriff's living quarters. The other is the mayor's office. Okay. All right. Cool. So let's outline the details here. So we know that Nisa Stonehearth is the town mayor, serving both as the Sky Song Gulch's appointed executive officer and as the town's judge. She is, what do we know about her? Let's see here. Ooh, yeah, she's the pet owl. Okay. Okay, let's say she is a square-jawed, no nonsense woman. She's a square. Square jaw, no nonsense, justice of the peace. Justice. Who dotes on her pet owl, Bernard. Moron Darksteel is the town sheriff. What do we know about him? We know that he's constantly fiddling with his clothing. Okay. Oh, and he has a quest, which we can build out another time. Okay. Is the town sheriff. He's a short, balding, let's see here. He's a short, balding brawler. Who is constantly fidgeting with his clothes and kit. Great. Yeah, all right. And so, what makes Town Hall unique from everywhere else? We could lean into the whole jail cell thing in the back, and we could have a we could have some regulars that are just kind of you know, comedic one-liner kind of characters. The only downside of this is that your players are likely to decide that they want to, you know, side with the town drunk because he's funny, which means that you've got to create yet another NPC. So let's. You know what? It's fun. We're gonna go with it. Though there is not much crime in town, we'll say let's. I'm gonna borrow another name from. Yeah. Okay. So let's. You know. Let's make. If we're gonna make our town drunk somewhat comedic, we should give him more of a nickname than a name. I think. You know, something that makes him more of a caricature, if you will. And so I think I'm gonna. You know, I think I'm gonna borrow a name from a another campaign that I was in, and you know, sort of side note tangentially here. You know, the name I'm gonna go with here is Left Eye Gilroy, and I took this. You know, this is an NPC that I named in another campaign in which I was a player, not a DM, and so but it was a really cool thing that the DM did for that adventure, where you know, our various characters had lots of ties in the city that we were in, and he would let us just kind of name them and tell him something about who they were, and then he would weave them into the story. It was a very cool thing, that sense of collaborative world building, and I really really enjoyed it. So we're going to do a little homage to that here. We're going to say, we're going to call him Left Eye Gilroy. There's not much crime in town left on Gilroy. The local drunk spends most nights, we'll say most mornings rather, right? Most mornings, because he'd be picked up during the night. sleeping off Miss Bender in the in one of the cells. He wakes only long enough to make snarky comments about whatever is going on within earshot. Cool. So, yeah, and since he is going to be unconscious for a lot of things, we end up in a situation where we don't necessarily have to have a character that's fully fleshed out. Although, who knows? The characters might really want to investigate Left Eye Gilroy, but we have more of a caricature here who just kind of shows up for one-liners and is a feature of Town Hall. The one local criminal. Well, I guess there's a fair amount of crime in town. There's not much, uh, we'll say, policed crime in town, since we do have an Underworld hangout. Policed crime. Okay, cool. So that gives us all of the buildings, all of the shops, and plenty of them for Sky Song Gulch. So we really have a nice, vibrant, setting for this adventure, a place from which to journey forth, and for us perhaps to write many more adventures. So the next step in the beginning here is to start writing our adventure hook. And we're going to do this in a couple steps. One, an adventure hook for an adventure like this needs a couple things. It needs like the actual given quest, right? Like, how do the characters get involved in the story, and what is it that they are told that they're supposed to do? So we need the actual information that Nisa Stonehearth gives them, and we need how she gives it to them, why she gives it to them, and so are we counting on the characters to seek her out? Does she seek them out? Generally, for stuff like this, when we have kind of a prescribed story arc like this, a narrative arc, I want the quest giver to seek out the characters for some reason, and we have to come up with a reason for that. The answer the why us question. But so we have this sort of discrete block of information that they get from being pulled into this adventure, and then we also need we're going to need some rumors. They're going to need to be able to go and investigate and find out more information about the adventure, so that that we can reward them with rumors and hints and that kind of thing, that may or may not be linked to what they actually do in the Burg, or it might be. So we're gonna do this in two parts. So we've got our actual concrete hook, and then we need to build out a rumor table for this. So we kind of did some of our bullet points here very early on when we were sketching out the initial idea for this. And so let's review those. Characters are to seek out the Burg and recover the cold iron. Offers, gives them the direction of where to go. That's important to a hook. What to do, where do you go, what's the first step. Those are all vital things when you're writing a hook. Let's see, your community warns of the Mind Plague. I think actually that is better as a rumor. So let's make that change. Because if you're trying to sell a job, yes, it would be useful to give everybody all the details. But sometimes you don't, because you want these adventurers to take this job, which is clearly dangerous. But you want to make it seem a little less dangerous, so they're less likely to scoff and less likely to ask for more money. And for that, we do have to come up with that. What is the payoff, right? So hook, where to go, what to do, you know, where do you go to start? What is it that we want you to do there? And what is going to be your reward for having done this, right? What do you get out of it? And it's not always monetary, but there's got to be some benefit to the characters. Otherwise, they're not going to do it. And offering of aid for this. Um, that might be something they can go ask around and search for. Um, we'll see. All right, so I'm gonna start a separate section here, and then we'll kind of delete and modify stuff as we go to. But I just want a clean working space here. So um, let's start with heading to say Nisa's offer. Okay. And so let's say, let's see, Nisa Stonehearth, mayor of Sky Song Gulch, has a problem. Years ago, she made a pact on behalf of the Sky Song, on behalf of the people of Sky Song Gulch, with the Blood Good Sisters, in exchange for restoring the flow of the Lemaire River, on which the town depends. Nisa promised the town would would recover and turn over the last known deposit of cold iron. The payment date approaches, and Nisa has yet to secure the iron, the rare ore. Though many have tried, none have returned alive. Desperate to protect the town and her position as mayor, so we said that's her guiding want, right? Nisa turns to a group of adventurers new to Sky Song Gulch for help. Yeah, we can kind of leave it unsaid that she considers them expendable if necessary. But that's kind of our our background, and I know that we have a lot of those key points listed out elsewhere, but I really find it helpful in the beginning of the adventure to just kind of lay out, what the deal is, even if it's for your eyes only when you're writing this. It just helps you kind of refocus and center in on what's important, while we have other places in the adventure where we can expand on certain key points here and in the background of the of the Berg and the background of the relationship with the Bloodgood sisters and all that kind of stuff, right? So, um, so we have kind of this zero in point. So she approaches them, and let's see here. Let's call this Nisa's pitch. Nisa approaches. Actually, she's probably the kind to call them to her as opposed to go to them. So Nisa, because she's going to want leverage, right? So Nisa um, uh, summons the PCs to her office at Town Hall and lays out the following. Okay, and so I'm just going to give myself bullet points here. I am of the kind that I will probably eventually write like a box text for this, just because that helps me make sure that I deliver this the way that I want to do it. But you don't need to. You can go with just bullet points. Okay, so she wants PCs to travel to the Berg, an abandoned glacial fortress in the wasteland surrounding the town. Once there, they are to recover the remaining stockpile of cold iron that was abandoned when the Berg evacuated centuries ago. All right. In return, she's willing to pay the characters. What do we say? These are third level? Yeah, 4 third level. Okay. Pay the characters. Let's say you could do a lump sum and just kind of divvy it up, or you can, do it by character. I generally tend to just do it by character. That way, nobody gets the short end of the stick on the reward. So we'll say return. She's willing to pay the characters. Pay the characters 100 GP each. 100 GP each for cool. All right, so we got the 3 parts of her pitch, right? There's a place she wants them to go. It's what she wants them to do while they're there, and then she's her payment that she's offering. All right. The characters are likely to going to have questions for her, and you can handle that in 2 different ways. You can have a specific list of things that she knows about the adventure and about what is to come, or you can build out the rumor table and she can know some of those things. Maybe you roll for them or what have you. There's no right or wrong way to do it. I'll do it both ways. It just depends on what the situation calls for. In this case, I think I want to go with the rumor table, so the characters are kind of exploring a little bit, because this is a case of we want them to build some of those relationships that are going to be valuable to them at the end of this adventure, right? So we want to set them up for success. So let's hit up a rumor table. Let's get that going. Ooh, okay, all right. So that rumor table, we'll start populating that. But since we are getting close to our time here, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up here instead of getting partway through the rumor table. We'll do that in its entirety next time, which will not be this coming Monday because that's what Labor Day, and so it'll be the following Monday that we'll pick up on that. But thank you very much for watching today. Thanks for joining. I really, really appreciate this time with you all. Just time out of my week to spend doing unstructured creative thinking is just really valuable. And so it's really meaningful for me that you all are interested in watching this process. If you've enjoyed this, please like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so that you never miss a video. If you want to check out my latest adventure that I published an adventure called the Haunting of Scalen's Moor that's now available on the DMs Guild. You can find a link to that at my website. That's rjkerr.com. You'll be able to find that there. Cool adventure that takes sort of a little bit of a Celtic horror adventure with some spell and sorcery vibes to it. Takes place in a haunted moor, if you can't guess from the title. But that just went live the other day, so that's brand new. If you would like to play that adventure instead of DMing it, you can check out the games that I have running for that on startplaying.games. You can see my full listing at startplaying.games/GM/RJ Kerr. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me today, and I will see you in 2 weeks.